You're listening to West Fourth and Goal, presented by Old Carolina Barbecue Company, a podcast for high school sports fans in North Central Ohio. I'm Richland Source sports reporter Kurt Conrad, and as always, I'm joined by co-host Effie James and producer Noah Jones. We're coming to you from the IdeaWorks podcast studio on West 4th Street in downtown Mansfield. Noah, we're thrilled to welcome Old Carolina Barbecue Company on board as our title sponsor for this, our third season of West 4th and Goal.
Absolutely. You know, Old Carolina is authentic barbecue inspired by the Great Carolinas. Head over for your Sunday meal and for all-you-can-eat barbecue at 2035 4th Street in Ontario, Ohio, and you'll see that it's the best barbecue in town.
In addition to Old Carolina, we're glad to welcome back Two Cousins Pizza as the official pizza of West 4th and Goal. Whether you're hungry for pizza, subs, stromboli, or salad, give Two Cousins a call at 419-522-2211 or stop by the downtown Mansfield location at 103 North Main Street. Two Cousins Pizza, the world's best pizza, relatively speaking. Week one of the high school football season is come and gone, and if we learned anything last week, I think it's that Mansfield Senior is every bit as good as advertised.
I think so, and I think that one of the things that I noticed more than anything else is how physical they were, and generally you don't see that in week one. Generally teams are sometimes timid, trying to feel each other out, but I thought right from the gate the Tigers really were physical, and you know, that has a lot to do with their preparation, and you could tell they spent a lot of time getting ready for Norwalk. Right.
It was a 21-10 win over Norwalk, who the Truckers won a regional championship last year, advanced to the state semifinals, and we're joined this week by one of the stars of Mansfield Senior's defense. He was a guest with us last year, and over the summer he verbally committed to play football at Bowling Green State University. Let's welcome in two-way senior lineman and a friend of the program, Anthony Hawkins. Anthony, thanks for coming down and joining us.
Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely. You guys, it's kind of a funny situation. I'm the odd man out in the room. Effie, you played football at Bowling Green before injury ended your career. Noah, you graduated from Bowling Green, and Anthony, now you're gonna wear the, well, I guess you're not gonna change school colors very much. You're gonna wear some brown and orange next year up in Bowling Green. You had offers from a lot of different MAC schools, in Ball State, Kent State, Eastern Michigan. What ultimately, I guess, distinguished Bowling Green from those schools, and why'd you choose BG?
I chose BG because I just got a great family feeling up there. Coach Loeffler and the whole coaching staff, they just made me feel at home as soon as I walked through the door. Me and a couple of teammates went up there, and he talked to us all, but he really just did a good job of telling me, you're going to be a guy for us. We need you, and not only am I wanted there, but I'm needed there.
Right.
So that was a big thing for me, and I just think he really sold me with that and the way that I think he's going to turn the program around.
Now, it looked like, I follow you on social media, it looked like this all happened relatively quickly. I mean, you got a bunch of offers all within a few short weeks, I guess, starting last March. What was that, I guess, what was that month or so like for you and your family? I would imagine you guys, our heads are spinning a little bit there, huh?
Yeah, it was crazy. Even before that, we were just going to all these different places, checking all these different schools. And I think it just, once the offers really started coming in, started being crazy, like I could be a Division I athlete. So,
and if I've talked to Chokey Bradley about it, and he said it's kind of like a cascade effect. Once you get that first offer, I mean, they start to pile up real quickly. I mean, it seems like nobody wants to be the one who missed out on a guy.
Right, and you know that's how recruiting goes. Everybody, you know, you try to hold your cards, you know, close to, so nobody can see what you're thinking. But once somebody goes, and you know, you'll see everybody who likes you has to show their hand, or else they may miss out. So it's you know, the recruiting process, you know, like we talked about last week, has changed a bit, but in the end, it's still the same because you know, once somebody shows interest, everybody else has to show their hand. One of the things I'd if you don't mind, I'd like to
jump in there.
Ask Anthony about, you know, Coach Bradley. Really, you know, I know personally has done a tremendous job helping you guys with exposure and being seen by colleges. Talk a little bit about what his what he does and how he helps with the process of being recruited, not just for you but your other teammates. Talk a little bit about his impact on recruiting for the Tigers.
He's really powerful. He's a man with many connections, as we all know. So I mean, pretty much any college coach that you want to reach out to or wants to reach out to you, he has a connection with that guy. So I mean, he's really powerful. He's a really powerful guy.
I think it lends itself to kind of a broader conversation about recruiting in general and the importance, I guess, that these day-long camps that these kids go to now in the summer kind of that's all changed the landscape of college recruiting. I would imagine when Coach Blackney walked in your door 25 years ago, it wasn't like that. I mean, that was the only guy you might have saw.
No, in those days you didn't go to many camps, at least not the average player. Players like Chioke and all that who were elite level players. They got a chance to play in all-star games and things like that. But for us normal players, we were at the whim of getting films out. It was VHS films and trying to get them out to whoever would watch. But you're right. The process now is so big, and I think what Chioke has mastered is how to get his kids seen.
Right.
And football is unique, more unique than any other sport because you have to be, if a coach gets a look at you, there's plenty of guys that get recruited basically off how they look. You walk up to a coach and he sees your stature, sees your size, and right away they're interested. And like no other sport can say that. You don't see other, golfers or even basketball players, a coach looks at you and says, hey, I think you could fit in here. But football is interesting in that way that you could just look good, be athletic, not necessarily be a great skill guy, but if you have the measurables, that gets you looked at. And what Chioke has done, he's mastered the fact that he wants to get his kids seen by coaches first to spark their interest, and then their play on the field seals a deal.
And what I found so interesting is just the whole infrastructure, I guess. I mean, my nephew was a football player last year, and I took him to a few of these camps, and I mean, you go to a place, and it's not just one coaching staff that's there. It's several coaching staffs from every level is there. I mean, you're getting seen there's a lot of eyeballs on you.
They have to be there now.
Right.
It was a time where Division I coaches didn't have to go to everything. They just kind of waited and see who came to them. But now they have to go, and the Division II coaches are recruiting the Division I player.
Right.
So, they have to go. It's an interesting concept, but that's the way recruiting is happening today.
Anthony, I mean, just talk for those of us who have never been recruited. I mean, take us through one of those camps and then the whole process. How does Bowling Green find out about you, and how do they approach you, I guess? I mean, is it through social media or is it face-to-face? How does that all work?
Actually, my first time ever even going up, talking with any of the BG coaches, anything like that, was on that trip that I had mentioned earlier.
Okay.
Coach Bradley took us he pulled us out of school, a couple of our players out of school, and he took us up on a trip to BG to see the facility and see their practices. And I think before that he had told them about me, and I think that's when they really started to like me and took the chance on me. So I think when I was there, that's when they had told me I have an offer from there.
Right. When you go to these camps like in the summer, I know you went to a few of them last year. We saw you at different places. I mean, is there pressure to go out there and perform when you know all those eyeballs are on you?
Yeah, it's definitely some pressure. This is potentially your future at stake. This is pretty much like a job interview.
Sure.
So pretty much you just try to go out there and do your best and impress the coaches enough to take a chance on you.
Right. And a lot of you guys, a lot of you and your classmates, you're a senior this year, a lot of you guys were starters from day one of your freshman year. Looking back, how's the game, I guess? I mean, did you feel then like you fit in right away? I mean, did you feel like you should be on the varsity field? And how has it kind of that process been for you? How's it changed here the last few years?
Man, it was pretty hard as a freshman. I think I was about 50, 60 pounds lighter. I was going against a guy who was 380 pounds every day in practice, so it was pretty tough on me. And I just worked my way through it, and it's definitely a lot easier. Now I'm the big guy going against the younger or smaller people.
Right. I mean, you always hear guys, and especially skill position guys, they say the game kind of slows down for them a little bit. I mean, is that the case for guys who are in the trenches there? I mean, is it still pretty much the same as it was?
I think it's pretty much the same, but it definitely does slow down for you as you gain more knowledge about it and develop your technique better. It just helps you out a lot.
After, were you you weren't a 4-year starter or anything like that, were you? I mean, what was it like for you out there for that first? I would imagine it's got to be going real fast.
I was a 1-year varsity player, so the speed of the game for me came from, back then Coach Jay done a great job of making practice game-like. So we really got an opportunity to see, speed of the game every day in practice, especially for me as a quarterback. It was very difficult. My last time playing quarterback, I played JV as a 10th grader, didn't play my junior year at all. And so when I came back into football play, and our very first game was at Mentor, and that was different. But as the season went on, the game did start to slow down, and I did start to realize, I don't have to take off running every time somebody gets near me. So it was, football is a great game, man, and you grow in it game by game, and the kids like Anthony that have really grown, you could see the growth not only physically, but you can see his growth on the field. You can tell the game has slowed down, and they're able to do some things that they would never have been able to do as a freshman or a sophomore. Right.
And Anthony, you alluded to it a little bit. I mean, when you were a freshman, there were some older guys who I don't know if they took you under their wing or not, but do you kind of feel that obligation to kind of get the younger guys now that you're a senior and kind of show them the way?
Yeah, definitely. Coming up as a freshman, there were some seniors that I looked up to who are in the role that I'm in now, and they took me under the wing, like you said, and did it pretty well and showed me an example of what to be and how hard you have to work to maintain that position and things like that. So I definitely feel an obligation to lead these younger guys.
And one of those guys is the head coach's son, right? Makai Bradley's a freshman, right? And I heard his name called a couple times last week, so he evidently did some things right. What's that relationship like with the coach's son? Is it a little different?
Coach Bradley does a good job of, being on the football field, you wouldn't even tell that he has children out there.
Right.
He treats us just like a normal football player under his program. So, our relationship, I talk to him every day. It's pretty cool, and I think that one day I think that he could definitely be a Division I program, the Division I player.
Now, I've spent a lot of time covering the Tigers over the years, and as someone who covers the team a lot, it seems to me like there's a pretty unique relationship that the players have kind of forged with defensive coordinator Sean Adams. Just talk to us a little bit about that and tell us what that relationship was like.
Oh, man, at first when I met him, I thought he was crazy.
I hear that a lot.
I thought he was crazy, but over the time, you just build a relationship with him, and he's become not only a great football coach to us, but like a father figure, spending so much time with him. I think that he's definitely been a big step along with our growth and development. So I think he's definitely led us in the right way.
And if we've had this conversation a number of times, it's not always the easiest thing to coach at Mansfield Senior, and for a guy to come in there, and he's kind of an outsider. He's not necessarily a Mansfield guy, and for him to come in and do that says a lot for what he's done there.
Well, it does for Sean and so many of the other coaches, Tonio Fletcher and a lot of the other coaches that are coming in. Those guys, Sean specifically, has really done a good job of developing relationships with these young men, and that's the key, especially when you're not. When you come in as a Mansfield guy, and Shoki had a great, as well as myself when I was coaching football, we had a great advantage because as alumni, we were invested in the program, and the kids knew that right away. Well, you get a guy coming in from Clear Fork at the time, he's got to prove himself, and he done a great job establishing who he was. He was genuine. And like you said, Anthony thought he was crazy. I think everybody thinks that of him when they first meet him, but they start to realize his energy and fire comes from the passion he has for the game and for these kids. This is a guy who will fight tooth and nail for every one of his players. And, that staff is so fortunate to have guys like him and, Coach Bradley, Maurice Bradley, Coach Bradley's younger brother, and all these guys that they love Tiger football and they love Tiger football players, and those relationships turn into tremendous effort and energy on the field from those players.
Yeah, and it seems like those guys, and I've been around practice enough. I mean, they'll get on the kids and they'll scream and holler at them, and sometimes the kid might shut down, but you guys are never like that. I mean, it seemed to me like that those guys have your best interest in their minds.
Yeah, I think that the coaches, they demand a lot out of us as players, and so I think to bring that out of us sometimes, that it takes for being yelled at, maybe even being cursed at, but I mean, it takes that for you to turn it on and say, okay, let's go. Like, I have to get my job done.
Sure. Now, Coach Adams last week, and this is the first I'd heard of it, but he called you guys the Four Horsemen. What's tell us where that came from, and do you like the nickname for you guys up front there?
Oh, I love the nickname. Like, as soon as he gave it to us four just looked at each other. I think the entire room actually laughed, but us four, we kind of embraced it, and I feel like it's a part of us now, and we really feel like an obligation to uphold that name.
Right. And I'm sure as a former journalism major, you know a little bit about the Grantland Rice piece about the four horsemen at Notre Dame. I mean, it was I think in 1924, so it's almost 100 years old now. So these guys can be forgiven if they don't know about that. But Grantland Rice was a sports writer in the 1920s, and he wrote this wonderful story. It's considered the best football lead in the history of football leads, and I read it still and throw it down because I know I'm never going to write a sentence that good in my entire career. But I mean, the four horsemen are famine, pestilence, destruction, and death. Which of the four of you, which one are you?
Right on the spot.
I'd like to be destruction.
That's absolutely the one I was thinking for. How about the other guys up there, Clay Caudell, Tyler Gross, and Elijah Gross? I mean, who's who up there? If you're destruction, who are they?
I think Tyler would probably be death. And what were the other two again?
Pestilence and destruction. No, you were destruction. Famine and pestilence. I'm sorry.
I think Clayton would be famine and Elijah would be pestilence.
Yeah.
Right on.
Good. That's good.
Now, Sean, he told me early in the preseason, you guys kind of changed defensive alignments a little bit. You went to like a 4-2-5. Did that affect what you guys do up front that much, or is it still pretty much the same responsibilities for you guys?
It affected it, but I think it affected us in a good way. I mean, it made our assignments a lot easier, and now all we have to do is just maintain our gaps and just be sound. I mean, he just lets us play football now.
That's it. And you're a guy who coached football, and for me, it's kind of always weird. I mean, I love to cover the game. I never played. How big of an adjustment is something like that? I mean, when you're changing a defensive lineman, in the off season.
Well, number one, it's necessary because every year brings about new personnel.
Right.
So sometimes the strength of your team one year is not the strength of your team the next year. So you've got to look at, if we're weak somewhat at linebacker, maybe we need to get more hybrid guys that can play DB and come up and fill in the run game, which is what the Tigers have this year.
Right.
They have more guys that are defensive backs, but aggressive defensive backs. And that way you can leave, your four dominant linemen. Now, I'll tell you this. I watched the Norwalk game, and I walked away thinking that the Norwalk kids were absolutely, by the third quarter, they were afraid to block the four guys up front. And that was something that I hadn't seen before, and Norwalk is a reputable program. And I'm not just saying it because Anthony's here or anything. I'm saying they were, and I like the way he explained that, they just played football. When you make it simple, the game is easy. And when things are easy, you can play harder. And, I was talking to Jacob Owens, who is the quarterback coach, and I was basically trying to, tell him the same thing offensively. It's an easy game. Keep it easy for your personnel, as easy as you can, and that way they can play harder, don't have to think as much, but they can be as effective as they can be. That's the challenge for us coaches, finding a system that makes it easy for your players so they can play fast and play hard.
Right. And it seems to me like that's kind of the direction the game is going. You've got to have more hybrid guys. You can't have like a 6'3", 240-pound linebacker anymore.
No, those days are done.
Now you were one of the captains last week. Is that something is it change week to week? Are you voted on by the teammates? Are you a captain for the whole season? Or?
Yeah, I'm a captain for the whole season.
Well, do you take that responsibility? I mean, do you take it seriously?
Oh yeah, we definitely take it seriously. It's a leadership thing. We now feel like we have to have that leadership, and we're obligated to lead these guys, and we're the ones that they obviously look up to because they voted us in this position. So I think it's definitely they expect us to lead them.
You last week, Angelo Gross's younger brother Jaden, whose battle against leukemia has been well documented. He was out on the field with you guys, and he came out for the coin flip and stuff. I mean, how have you guys? And you're a basketball player too, so you were around when he was diagnosed. But have you guys really kind of embraced Jaden and taken him on as one of your own? It seems like that's been the case since he was diagnosed.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've always embraced him even before this. Sure. So I mean, definitely now, we're happy to see him in good health now, and it was definitely even a proud moment for me just to see him stand beside his brother, and just to see him happy to go out there with him.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw it, but he looked thrilled to death to be out there. I mean, it's neat to see, and it certainly doesn't come as a surprise to me. I've been around long enough to know that. I mean, Mansfield kind of embraces their own, you know. I mean, sure. and but nonetheless, it's still pretty neat to see a community wrap its arms around a family who's going through something like that.
Yeah, and anytime, and we talked last week about how sometimes you have to understand the difference between, football, the sport, and then the life, that comes with football players. And, a lot of times you have to have that reality check, and it's great to see your football family is your family. So if something happens to a member of your family, you all, by nature, you just gather around them and support that family member. And I think, Chioke has done a great job of creating that culture within the football program, and the kids really take to it. And something like that happens to a teammate, they rally around that. That's a great thing to see.
Yeah, it certainly is. On that note, I think we'll take a quick break here. You're listening to West 4th and Goal. We're here with Mansfield Senior's Anthony Hawkins. We'll come back in a moment and break down last week's win over Norwalk. But before then, we'll take a quick timeout. You're listening to West 4th and Goal, presented by Old Carolina Barbecue Company.
Old Carolina Barbecue has recently installed a new drive-thru at their 2035 4th Street location in Ontario, Ohio. Go ahead and grab some authentic barbecue inspired by the Great Carolinas and use the drive-thru. Old Carolina Barbecue, where the best barbecue in town is slow smoked with quick service. Where the best barbecue in town is slow smoked with quick service.
Welcome back to West 4th and Goal. I'm your host, Kurt Conrad, and I'm here with co-host Effie James and Mansfield Senior two-way lineman Anthony Hawkins. And Anthony, before the break, we alluded to it a little bit about last week's season-opening win over Norwalk. Mansfield Senior beat the defending regional champs 21-10. That was after they kind of put it on you guys in the opener last year. I mean, was this a game that I would imagine this is one you kind of had circled on your calendar all year, huh?
Of course, the coaches let us know all summer, like, this is what they did to you last year, and this is what they think about you. So we just used that throughout the summer, and I think it made us work harder, and we prepared a lot better this passing week for them, and I think it helped us out a lot, definitely.
Right. Now Norwalk has a mountain of an offensive lineman named Trey Leroux, who's going to Ohio State. This is a guy who's about 6'8" and 340 pounds. There were times when you were locked up against him. I know Clay Caudill spent a lot of the night kind of banging heads with this guy. What's it like going up against a guy like that, and how do you feel like things went for you individually against him and as a unit? It seemed like you guys did a pretty good job up there.
Well, he's a pretty good player. You can see why he's going to Ohio State. You know, he's a good player, technical player, and he has the body to prove it. So definitely hard to move him, but I feel like I and also my teammates, we held our own against him, and we did a pretty good job.
Yeah, and you watched it. I'm sure you kind of have some feelings about it. It seemed to me like I don't think you ever handle a guy like that, but I mean, you kind of stalemate him if nothing else.
Yeah, and I thought that, it was frustrating for him. And I didn't think he played poorly. I just thought that the energy that, the Tiger lineman brought every down, he's at the end of the day, he's only one guy. So, being an offensive lineman, even if you're All-American, you can't block them all.
Right.
And the great thing I love about the way the Tigers played that game, they weren't – I didn't feel like – and you tell me, Anthony, if I'm wrong, but I didn't feel like they just pinned their ears back and just ran. I felt like they were stopping the run. They were rushing the passer effectively. So it wasn't like they were being undisciplined. They just, protected their gaps and were very aggressive. And, I thought the Norwalk kids, pretty much just gave up on really trying to block them at a certain point.
Oh, I think definitely. That's the goal, to just get to the quarterback, stop the run. But, that's not always the case. But I think, like you said, we did a good job of just playing our gaps, being disciplined, and just doing what we're told to do.
And Norwalk, I think, they were flagged for, I don't know, I think 150 yards and penalties almost.
Could have been a hold every.
I was going to say, and a lot of those were offensive holdings. Is that something you guys take a little bit of pride in? Getting those drawn. It seems like you guys were kind of running circles around those guys up front.
Oh, definitely. It gives you a good feeling. It's just like we're working hard, and there's not much that they can do with us right now. So it definitely makes us feel good and give us a little bit of pride and momentum.
I don't know how it was when you played, but those are some big guys up there who move pretty well for Mansfield Senior. And Anthony's a basketball player. I know Tyler's a basketball player. Do you think that maybe some of that translates from one sport to the other in terms of footwork?
Athleticism, particularly on the defensive line, athleticism is, probably the best trait you're gonna get. I would take, if you look at football at any level, college, professionally. Right now I think Donald from the Los Angeles Rams was up for a Defensive Player of the Year, and here's a guy who plays a 3 technique. He's an interior lineman, but he affected the game because of his athleticism,
right,
not because of his size. His athleticism is what makes the difference in games. So, when you have guys that are multi-sport athletes that, spend time in the weight room, they build up their strength, but yet keep their athleticism, that's your dream as a defensive line coach.
Right. And then offensively, I think you and Tyler and Ben Miller have all been starters since your freshman year. How important, I guess, on the offensive side of the ball is chemistry and just being familiar with those guys? I would imagine you guys can kind of anticipate what the other guy's going to do without ever having to say a word.
Oh, yeah. Chemistry is definitely important. I think since we've been playing together for not only these 4 years, but even back to our middle school and youth Tiger days. But I think that the communication is there, and we kind of don't even have to really communicate like that because we just know what to do in these situations because we've been in them so many times. But I think our communication is still definitely important, and we do a great job of doing it.
Yeah, just having that much familiarity with. They're pushing 30-plus varsity starts, then back into the junior high, a lot more than that. Just playing together it has to benefit everyone, I would think.
Well, it does, and that communication and that familiarity that comes with playing together is very important. Anthony, if you look at if you had to pinpoint where the struggle was last week, I'd say offensively, you guys, I'm sure you guys wanted to play better. What would you say you guys got to work on this week offensively in order to play a little bit better, with more consistency?
I think it could start up front with us, actually. I think we could have done a lot better. I know we missed a couple assignments here and there, but I think for us to get better as offense, it starts with us, so we will have to pick our play up.
Yeah, we were talking to Anthony a little bit before we came on here, and I think Angelo Gross got hit harder last week than maybe he's been hit in a very long time.
That was a big one.
That's what you see, but there were breakdowns elsewhere that led to that, right?
Sure.
That's how those things happen. Is that an offensive line thing, or is that just a unit thing, or
that is the difference between offensive football and defensive football is one misstep as an offensive lineman, and Anthony understands this, one misstep as an offensive lineman can get your quarterback killed, can get your running back hit square in the chest just because you take one false step. The timing, the technique is so important, defensive end, it's more about aggressiveness, protecting your gap. There's a lot of technique that goes with that too, but as an offensive lineman, you got to play with leverage. You got to play with your head up. There's a lot of different things, and if you take a bad step, everybody's going to know it because the guy is going to make the play in the backfield. So, like you said, that takes them. It starts with your line up front on both sides of the football. Mm-hmm. But no matter how – to me, I've always learned no matter how bad your skill guys are, no matter how average they are, if you can dominate up front, you are going to be successful offensively.
Right. Now, Mansfield Senior plays Cleveland John Hay this week. The Hornets lost to Valley Forge 35-0 last week. They were 4-6 last year. On paper, this is a game that you guys should probably win. And as a coach, I'm really interested in this. Is this a game that you dread as a coach? I mean, is this one of those trap games?
Well, I tell you do dread those games, but at the same time, when you've got tremendous expectation, that is as tough to deal with as anything else, but this is where you lean on your captains. This is where you lean on your seniors, because if practice is not sharp, the focus is not there. As a coach, you can yell and scream all you want. You yell and scream every day. The difference is going to be made when the team leaders, the seniors, the guys who have been in it and know how important it is to get better every week, no matter the opponent, they're going to be more effective. So this is a week I'm sure Coach Bradley and his staff are really leaning on Anthony and the other captains and seniors to keep our team focused, even though, I think, like you said, on paper, this is a game that we should probably win.
And Anthony, I would imagine you got to be telling you guys we can't afford to overlook one here, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. We try to keep everyone locked in and tell them, we don't want to just be paper champions. We want to come out and prove and succeed. So we can't take any days off. We can't take any plays off. So I think definitely just keeping everybody locked in would be the main thing.
And I would imagine, especially you guys have a big senior class, but in years past, I think that maybe this year there's maybe a greater sense of urgency for you seniors. And maybe in years past you think, we got another year, no big thing. I mean, after tomorrow, 20% of your senior season is over. I mean, how great is that sense of urgency?
Oh, definitely. I feel like this year for us is state championship or bust. So, we're definitely working hard every day, and we feel it. We definitely want to accomplish great things with this last year that we got.
Right, and what's it gonna take to get to 2-0? I mean, without giving away too many trade secrets. I mean, what's the game plan going up against these guys tomorrow?
Definitely, I think the plan tomorrow would just be to execute our plays. As Coach Adams would say, keep the main thing, and just play Tiger football.
Right.
Well, I think that I love the fact, first of all, that he said it's state championship or bust, because a lot of times, and if I could go back, in my coaching years, I always felt like, if you say that, you're getting ahead of yourself. And we almost, even when we had good basketball teams or football teams, we always were one game at a time. But I tell you what, I love the fact when a kid or a coach can say, hey, we want to go to state and win.
Right.
That's big and that's huge. And I love the fact that that's the goal, because it should be. Mansfield Senior football has a huge tradition. There's no reason why we should settle to say, well, we just want to have a good season this year. No, we want to win the state title.
Right.
And that, because at the end of the day, that's what everybody's thinking anyway. So put it out there, create that expectation, and then it's up to guys like Anthony and the other leaders to make sure the team is focused enough to make sure that goal becomes a reality.
Right. And a few years ago, when Shelby was making its run to the state semifinals and the regional finals, they would break their huddles in week one with state championship. And we had Brennan Armstrong in here, and we asked him about that, and he said it's not being overconfident or anything like that. He said that's the goal. I mean, that's the only goal, and anything less than that is going to be a disappointment. And I would imagine with the talent and the experience that you guys have back, you kind of feel the same way.
Definitely. I think, in my opinion, if you want to play at a high level, you have to think at a high level. So, if you want to reach that goal of a state championship, you have to believe you can win it first. So I think that's just a major part of it, is just your mindset.
Right. Well, Mansfield Senior host John Hay this week. Let's take a look around the area and see some other games of interest. Madison is at River Valley. Both teams Madison is 0-1. River Valley won last week. River Valley beat Upper Sandusky 40-18. Madison scored a couple of quick touchdowns, and then all of a sudden Shelby came to life, and that game ended up being 50-20. Just your thoughts. I think Madison it's a process, and
Sure.
It's going to take a while, but they are on the right path here.
Right, and I think so. We talked a little bit last week about just breathing new air into that program, and I think the coach has done that. You could tell they're more competitive, and I was surprised when they jumped out an early lead against Shelby last week. But you got to take those small victories and build on them. And this is a great opportunity. River Valley is going to be a competitive team, but this is a good opportunity for Madison to again get better. And I will say this again because I truly believe it: the area football is better when Madison is competitive. It just is.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Another game of interest to Richland County fans. Lexington is at Shelby. Both teams are 1-0. Lex beat Ontario 47-21. Caden Berry, I think he's still running someplace down there. I think he ran for 300 yards,
Right.
Set a school record. This is an exciting game for a lot of different reasons, and it's been a pretty competitive game here the last few years.
Yeah, well, I never realized the rivalry that existed between those two schools, but it's a huge rivalry, and that game is going to be a tremendous game. It's going to be extremely competitive and physical. But I think again it'll come down to, can Lex run the football as effectively as they did last week? Because Shelby and their quarterback Albert is going to be, they're going to be wide open, and if Lex is going to be competitive, they're going to have to control some clock and keep that high-powered offense off the field. And I think with Caden Berry and that running attack, they have an opportunity to do it. But I'm sure Shelby is preparing for that after watching that film from last week.
Right. And Larry Phillips, the editor here at the Source, covered that game for us last week, the Madison Shelby game, and he came back and he said, McGuire Albert looks like a MAC level quarterback, and they've had a pretty good run of quarterbacks over there for the last few years. But he looks the part, right? He's a big, strong kid. He's kind of a pro style guy. He's not going to move around a lot, but that's not what they need him to do.
No, and when you have a guy, the benefit of having a guy come back as a quarterback is that you now have the time to create the offense around him that suits his strengths. So you're not going to create run pass options for him if he's not a run threat, or not to where you want to create your offense behind that. If his strength is throwing the ball in timing patterns, you put in more timing patterns. And I think Shelby's new coach has really done a great job of that, and it is going to be a great game. I'll be interested to see how that comes out. And
Anthony, that lends itself to a conversation about your quarterback. In the years past, you guys have kind of been unsettled back there. Now Cam Todd is in his first full season as a starter. He had 5 games last year. Does it feel more settled back there? Can you see more confidence in him back there?
Oh, definitely. I think he's done a good job at quarterback for us, and I always tell him, before every game and often during practice, I tell him, this is your army and you have to lead us. You're the general, so just lead us with confidence, and whatever you do, we'll just have to deal with, and we'll be behind you 100%.
Right. I think another game of interest locally here is, and not necessarily because of the opponent, but Clear Fork will host Granville. It's the first game for Clear Fork on their shiny new artificial surface down there, and I think it's going to be pretty exciting Friday night down in the valley.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see Clear Fork on that new fast track, and again, it's a wonderful looking field, and I think it's amazing how the field kind of suits the way they play now.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how they come out in a home opener and how their crowd responds. I'm sure they're going to have a huge crowd, and that's what high school football is all about, getting the community involved, and Belleville has always done a great job with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I would imagine they probably have some lawn chairs set up on the hill down there already. Clear Fork didn't have any problem scoring points last week. I think they won 56-0 over Fredericktown in the opener. Granville beat a Marion Franklin team. So as exciting as the event is going to be down there, they might just have themselves a pretty good football game to watch too. Right. Well, I think that's gonna wrap it up for this week. We certainly appreciate Anthony Hawkins from Mansfield Senior for coming down. You've been listening to West 4th and Goal, sponsored by Old Carolina Barbecue Company. On behalf of co-host Effie James, I'm Kurt Conrad. Thanks for listening. West Fourth and Goal is a part of the Richland Source Podcast Network and is produced and edited by Noah Jones. I'm your host, Kurt Conrad, and on behalf of co-host Effie James, thanks for listening.